Hello, welcome to Growing in Uncertainty. My name is Tess Miller, and through my seminar and coaching and sound healing business, I help people who feel stuck in some way in their lives. I help them get unstuck so they can start moving in the direction they've always wanted to go in. So thank you so much for being here with me today. I share these videos as a way to talk about the times in my life when I have felt really stuck in some way, because I've learned a lot about myself in the process of being stuck. And I'm still learning about myself in the process of being stuck. So in this way, as I talk about being stuck, I hope that we can all grow in uncertainty together. So thank you for being here today. I was thinking a lot about the idea that we all have our own kryptonite in life. We all have that thing that we consider to be a weakness, that we wish we wouldn't do, or we didn't have this habit. And, you know, we feel like, oh, my life would be so much better if I didn't do this. And what I wanted to talk about today is the idea that when you view that pattern or weakness or habit or whatever as a bad thing, it actually means that you're resisting whatever it is that you're doing. And we're not necessarily accepting that there's a reason behind that pattern. There's a cause. There's a, you know, that pattern is there. It started because of something. And when we can figure out what that something is, then we can actually start to make a change, and we can actually use that supposed weakness or kryptonite to actually strengthen those areas of our lives. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about weaknesses like, you know, if somebody always tells you, you're so fill in the blank. For me, personally, it was always, you're so sensitive, you need to grow thicker skin. That was always my kryptonite. It was the thing that made me feel like there was something wrong with me. Or maybe it's something like, you procrastinate, you know, every single time you have something that you need to get done, there's some kind of procrastination that happens, and you're like, why do I always procrastinate? I know it's not good for me. Or maybe it's that you have a tendency to not be able to say no when somebody asks you to do something and you're like, oh, but I really want to help them out, but it really is a humongous inconvenience if I do this. You know, the inability to say no can be your kryptonite. Or maybe it's that you have a hard time asking for help when you need it. Or maybe it's that you're very impatient and everything needs to happen right now. Whatever it is for you, it's really okay. Remember that that pattern is there for a reason and for a purpose, as we're going to talk about today. Something that I've learned about my own weaknesses is that if they can't be turned into strengths, they actually point me in the direction of how to get stronger. So I learned this first in college. I remember talking to a teacher of mine, a music teacher of mine, and wondering, you know, how can I get better at auditions? I just always seem to get way too overwhelmed, and then I crash and burn. And I feel like I'm too sensitive. You know, if only I had a stronger backbone, maybe I'd be able to do these auditions more easily. And he said, well, I don't think that you're too sensitive. I think actually your sensitivity helps you. It helps you be a stronger musician. You can really emote through the music, and also I've noticed you empathizing really well with other people and really understanding what they're going through. So I don't think your sensitivity is the problem. So I just thought that was interesting. You know, that was the first time I thought, oh, wait a minute, my sensitivity can actually be used for a good thing, or it is already being used for a good thing, and I've never seen that before. So that was a mind-blowing moment for me. But from that epiphany grew the awareness that I could actually harness the power of that weakness. But I had to do it consciously, and I had to do it with awareness. I realized that I had a choice over what I was thinking, how I was thinking, and making that choice about my thoughts changed how I felt about things. And shifting that perspective didn't necessarily make my sensitivity go away, but it helped me make powerful decisions about what I wanted to do, instead of maybe resorting to hiding, and not dealing with the situation or whatever. It actually helped me say, it's okay, this feeling is here for a reason. And then I could really take a look at it. So how can you turn your weakness into a strength? So the first step is to identify that thing that you wish that you didn't do. This is your weakness. This is your kryptonite. As I've said, for me, it's being too sensitive. For you, it might be something completely different. So identify that thing that you've always wished you didn't have or you didn't do. The second step is to maybe either make a list of the times when you've engaged in that pattern or the experiences that you've had when you've interacted with that pattern in your life. Or you can just write about it in general. This is how I feel. These are the thoughts that happen when I engage in this pattern. So for me, for example, I can make a list of a time that I may have overreacted to something. And I write down, oh my gosh, I was thinking that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't worthy, that people thought that I wasn't working hard enough, and I thought I was. And then I can talk about my emotions about that. I felt worthless, I felt embarrassed, I felt shame, I felt guilt. And once you identify the thoughts and the emotions that go along with that pattern, then you can really start to use those thoughts and emotions as a red flag. The next time you engage with that pattern, you can say, oh, wait a minute, I know this feeling. What's coming up for me? Oh, yep, that's right. I'm engaging in this, pattern. This is my kryptonite again. So you can really consciously start to notice when you get into that pattern in real time in your life. Rather than looking at it when it has happened in the past, you can start becoming aware in the moment. But you have to identify those thoughts and feelings first. You have to really consciously become aware of it before you can get to that point. The other thing that this does for you when you're writing about what happens for you when you engage in your pattern, your habit, your weakness, the other thing it does for you is that it allows you to take a bird's eye view, because whatever happened in the past is in the past. You can't change it, but you can learn from it. So if you can try to be as objective as possible without getting into the stories surrounding whatever you experienced in that moment, take a bird's eye view, rise above, and look at it from other perspectives. Maybe think about, how would my friend view this situation? How would the Pope, view this situation? How would someone I really, really admire view this situation? And, don't get caught up in judgments about it, because that's never helpful. Just try to look at it as objectively as possible. This happened, I reacted this way. The reason I reacted that way was because I thought and I felt fill in the blank. So it's okay to bring your thoughts and feelings into it. Just put them on the table without getting invested in the story that goes with them. I hope that makes sense. So once we have all of that out on the table, we can see our pattern. We can see everything clearly. The third step in this process is to ask yourself, how is engaging in this pattern working for me? How is it serving me? Every time I engage in this weakness, what is it actually doing for me? Now, believe it or not, it is doing something for you. I promise it is doing something for you. It might not necessarily be the thing that you ultimately want to be doing for yourself, and I'll explain that in a second, but it is doing something for you. So, for example, my sensitivity, as I said, I was feeling like, I was overreacting to auditions in my life, and I would get overwhelmingly nervous in situation that seemed way out of proportion to what was happening. The audition was maybe not something that was make or break in my career, and I was very well prepared for it. So why am I reacting this way? So when I tuned into the thoughts and emotions that came with being in that audition situation, I noticed that I was being someone who was actually afraid of what other people thought of me. I was afraid that people would see me at the audition and they would think things like, what does she think she's doing here? Or if I didn't advance, well, I guess we know what kind of a musician she is if she didn't advance to the next level of the audition. And so I was so focused on what other people were thinking of me, I was not putting any attention on what I thought of me. I was letting what I thought other people thought of me influence how I thought of myself. Which, once I started to perceive it that way, I thought, well, that's ridiculous. I need to focus on what I think of myself and separate out that story that I'm creating about what I think other people think of me. So once I did that, I could think about other times that I've actually done that to myself, where I have considered more about what other people think of me rather than tuning into what I think of me. So what I could do is, whenever I had that feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous about this and I feel worthless and blah, I could say, wait a minute, this is one of those times when my sensitivity is actually making me focus on what I think other people are thinking. And I could actually stop it in action. Or if I couldn't stop it, because sometimes that happens, sometimes the emotion becomes overwhelming. It is a pattern, and sometimes patterns are hard to break out of. I could at least say, okay, this emotion is overwhelming. I accept it. And once I can accept it, I can actually relax into it a little bit more. And then it's not nearly as overpowering. So that's a way that I've been able to work with some of my kryptonite situations. Oh, and step 4, by the way, is using that red flag, remembering that emotion that comes up for you when you're engaging in that weakness, and using it to say, okay, in the past I have responded in this way. How do I want to respond this time? It almost becomes like life is a choose your own adventure. All of a sudden, you don't have to react the same way every single time. You have choice. So I do have an example for you from a client of mine who just realized something super powerful about a weakness that she was experiencing in her life. She shared with me that, you know, she was frustrated that her house was not as picked up and orderly as she wanted it to be. And when she went home for the holidays, she realized that her parents' home was very organized, very efficient. And she wished that she could have that, but at the same time, she started thinking about the fact that actually it sort of bothered her when she was growing up that their house was always so neat and orderly, because what was going on in the family dynamics was something that always had to be hidden and kept secret from the public or even from each other. Like there were just certain things that you didn't talk about, you didn't discuss, you didn't share feelings. So having a house that's picked up actually became a symbol for her of hiding your emotions, hiding how you really feel, hiding the things that you wish that you could say out loud. And once she identified the fact that that was happening, that, you know, there was something inside of her, we called it the inner child. Her inner child was saying, no, don't put that away. Keep the house messy, because you don't want to hide things anymore. You don't want to hide your emotions. You want everything to be out in the open. And once she could see that that's why she wasn't putting things away in her house, she actually thought it was kind of cool. Like, oh, wow, you know, I didn't realize that there was something inside of me actually preventing me from creating the kind of family dynamic that I grew up with. So once she could see it as an empowering thing, she was no longer shaming herself for not putting the stuff away. Now, she still wants to put the stuff away, right? But without the shame, she's very much more likely to be able to do that. Now she can sit down with her inner child and say, okay, I see what you're doing there. Thank you. Thank you for protecting me, because that's what the inner child was doing. It was protecting her from creating that life that she didn't want. But then she can say, now let's create something new. And we can still keep everything, our emotions and our thoughts out in the open. We can have open discussions with family members, but we can also put things away too. So that was just something that came up. You know, she basically turned her weakness of, you know, not putting things away into a strength that she can use to start moving forward in her life with something that has been keeping her stuck for a really long time. So anyway, I talk about some of these opportunities that being stuck can present us in my book, The Book of Stuck. So if you're interested in reading more about how you might work with your stuck places in life and actually use it to your advantage and use it to help you get moving forward, go ahead and check out my book. It's on my website or it's on Amazon, either one. If you have a weakness if you have your own kryptonite that you would like help with in turning into a strength of yours, please feel free to send me a message, try a session with me. I do offer a complimentary coaching session, or come visit me in my new downtown space in St. John's if you're local. I'd love to see you there. We can do a little sound bath and coaching session there. And I hope this message really resonates with you today, because I think it's an important one to hear, especially if you have certain things that you feel ashamed about, when really the things that we're most ashamed about are actually the things that are there to help us the most. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me today. I always appreciate feedback. I so appreciate likes and shares and subscribes. It really helps other people find these videos. So if you feel like you're getting any value out of them, or you think somebody else in your life really could get some benefit out of them, please share it with them. And you can stay tuned to any of my updates on Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram. I have all my videos on YouTube, and I'm always updating my website with new blogs and information there. So if there's something you need help with related to a life transition, again, please feel to send me a private message. And remember that it's okay to be stuck, but you don't have to stay there. Have an amazing week and take care.